Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me on a wild Scottish hilltop. And for today's adventure, I'm racing against sunset here. For this adventure, I'm hoping to go to the top of the hill to the ancient Airlie Monument, built as a memorial to remember, I think it was one of the lairds of this glen here, Lord Airlie, who lost his life in the war. And he was actually quite a famous soldier of his era, and he fought in 4 wars and sadly lost his life in one. And this monument here was put on the hill to remember him. So it's cool in this video to go up, and I do like now and again walking up here, and I have been up here before on videos, but I can see there's a new fence line, and I'm hoping I can kind of get around the side of it and then up the hill. Maybe just go as the crow flies over the wild land. So yeah, let's get into it folks, a crazy adventure. Just check out this amazing view behind us. And you can see the colour of the clouds starting to go that pink colour, because literally the sun is setting right here folks. I need to get a fast pace. Check out this mad paradise landscape folks. I've been keeping a fast pace to try and get up here before sunset, but I was just looking, and the easy bit I was walking on, you can't get up it anymore because I was following the fence line, but the new fence just joins onto an old fence there, and the conditions look pretty extreme. So I'm going to take this secondary route up the hill here. This is totally mad, this landscape. We're out in the proper wilds here. And it's mad also to see the colour of the clouds. But hopefully I can get up here and document this folks. But also I need to get safely back down off this hill as well. That's the craziest thing about these adventures. It's just a madness at times. This landscapes and hilly environments. And credit to the people that carried all the stone up here. Most likely the stone for the monument was carried up by horse and cart. But it's a grand monument on the hilltop. This is some crazy real adventures folks. I'm just blown away each time I look around at this incredible view. And now I'm going through this wild scrubland. Freshly planted forest here. And I'm just heading straight up the hill now as the crow flies, trying to get to the monument in the quickest time here. A few months ago this landscape would have been too overgrown and wild to even walk over. Now it's becoming more explorable. Check that out folks, we've made it to this wild hilltop, and I had to take a minute to catch my breath. I've not been well this past week, and see when you're climbing up a hill, it's just like I can't get the same amount of oxygen that I normally get. But this fresh air in the lungs is so good for you out on these wild hills. The sky's getting so red now at the lower level, and it's just mad to be on a Scottish hilltop at sunset. It's cool to share these adventures with people all over the world and show them what a Scottish hilltop looks like at this kind of mad time of year. The orange of the sky and the crazy sunset, and then this ancient piece of history here hidden within this crazy landscape. It's an incredible sandstone monument, and it's called the Airlie Monument, and it's got a grand tower and almost castle-like architecture, and it's just breathtaking scenes folks. This monument can be seen for miles around, and you can see why. The view from up here is just spectacular. And it's actually quite peaceful. Like a couple of years ago, this was all forest around here, and this monument stood on like a clearing within the forest. Whereas now, it was all blown over from a storm, and then a lot of it clear felled, and then this is what we're left with. This is maybe what the monument looked like originally when it was placed here, before all these trees grew. There is still some forest here between us and Glen Prosen, which is at this side. Over to this side it's Glen Clova and Glen Moy, and you can just see so far from here all the way to Montrose and coastal areas like that. I can see Forfar in the distance on the faraway hill, and then Kirriemuir in the foreground, leading on along the Strathmore Valley. And then I can see Kinpurney Tower, which is another magnificent structure similar to this on the hill. This structure here was laid on August the 31st, 1901. And that gives you an idea of the history. I can actually see there's some little windows still in the top, and they've got like the little wooden window frames. A lot of Victorian structures had windows like that. Yeah, look at this, how overgrown it is. There's a tiny little passage. It's almost like a fairy tale scene up here on the hill tonight. Wow, this monument is magnificent. And the stone carving above the door there with the crest, it's got like thistles on it. And then the interesting detail, the cannons at the top's actually the drains. Up on the balcony, the water runs out the end of the cannon as a drain, which is a cool feature, a cool little detail. I also love the detail there, how it's like rope. It looks like rope which has been rolled around and around. And up at the top it's almost like battlements, but obviously like underneath the tower structure. And then it's got these other military coat of arms here, and that will show the military service that the gentleman this is obviously in memory of fought in all these different wars and probably all these different units. It was ancient wars, well before like the Great War and stuff like that. It was other British wars that he had fought in. Check that out there, that's the old wooden door. Oi! Ancient wooden door, folks. Anyway, let's take a walk around this and see what we see. Often when I come up here it's super windy, but the weather tonight is actually quite pleasant. When you come to these old locations you have to be aware of fallen masonry, and that's because the sandstone's so fragile. Obviously at any moment little bits of it could just like fall off. Look, somebody stashed their water there, maybe joggers or whatever coming round here on their daily jog, or maybe they're like doing a wee running event over here and they need a refreshment. Look at this here, look. The old historical graffiti up here. RD and JD. Maybe locals back at a different time. Looks like that's almost WD. And you can imagine these must have been windows at a certain time and then it's been blocked up for security reasons. And then there's another military coat of arms there. Yeah, it's so interesting to see this structure and document it on a video, and just to also document the wildness of the area that it's located at here. You can see it's got these mad like fir tree forests, and then it's just incredible hills as far as the eye could see. All these different glens and wild lands. There's just so many little nuggets of history hidden in the middle of this. It's cool to take the opportunity tonight to come up here. Such a fun adventure. And look, it's still got, I don't know if we can even see it from this side, there's actually the wee window frames still in there, and the detail on the wooden carving there is just, it's been built to the highest like quality. And there was a lot of money in estates back at this time in the early 1900s, all the way back the Victorian period of Britain. Yeah, this window's been blocked up as well at a certain time. But yeah, I love that detail with like the almost rope looking carving. Wow, that was insane. It was so mad, like trying to rush up here as well before sunset, documenting the structure like that. There's a whole inscription there on the front with a lot of writing, and it's a shame because the weather's taking effect on it and it's becoming really hard to read. But it says David William Stanley Ogilvie, 9th Earl of Airlie, and that's the gentleman that this is dedicated to. And he's actually buried down next to, across the river from the Cortacha Castle. He's actually, the gentleman's grave is in there. And then obviously this is the monument on the hill to remember him, and it's just such a magnificent area to have a monument when you see a landscape like this, and it gives it another character at this time of night with the sunset, the orange glow in the sky. It's just a special place to come for an adventure, but I'm going to keep it moving. So this is one of these situations, once it starts getting dark, it'll get dark super quick. And probably as these clips progress throughout the video, you'll notice it getting dark, because it'll be kind of in stages, whereas when you're on foot it's just like a gradual change in the light. I'm just thinking what way to go. I think I'm going to go exactly the way I came, but kind of the opposite direction. Yeah, this has just been special, folks. I'm blown away by how far I can actually see tonight. And even away down that direction, that's where the sun is kind of disappearing behind the hills, and it's a shame because it would be good if there was no clouds in that area. Wow. Anyway, I'll update you once we see the next cool item on this adventure. Check that out, folks. That's the Scottish heather that you get on the hill here. After it's flowered with the purple colour, this is what happens. It goes this white, kind of dry way for the winter period. It kind of looks like that. Pretty soon this will be covered with like a layer of frost and snow most days. There was a couple of times I actually came up here when it was proper deep snow and I could hardly walk. That was back in like my early days of being a YouTuber. It's so cool as well when you're on a hill, because you can just see so far and you can just see so much going on. Different people making their way up the glen and down. If you keep on going up that direction there, you actually get all the way up to like the Clover Hotel and other areas like that. Glen Doll is on beyond all these hills around the corner there. There is one time I was at an abandoned farm with a water wheel, and I can actually see that from here as well. I can see where the river had gone after it had left the edge of the farm. It's left a scar in the land there, the history of the farm and water wheel. And that's the kind of thing I notice often on an adventure. You can often spot things to visit in the future as you go around. It's so peaceful as well. If I wasn't speaking, you can just hear this noise. Nothing but the wind, folks. And that's what I love about Scotland. Often the remoteness or the solitude, even away up here on top of a hill, there's just nothing or nobody around at times. This history just sits in the middle of that night and day. And it's cool to come up here and make these videos. See, another thing, when I visit a site like this, I imagine the people probably building that and think how proud they must have been back when it was first built. Even the roof of the tower is actually of sandstone construction, which is unusual. It must be quite a heavy tower there. And another interesting thing, there's a little metal beacon there which can be filled with obviously like some sort of fuel and then lit. Probably wood or even some type of coal maybe. And then right on the top of the monument there's also the wee lightning conductor. So if it gets struck with lightning, kind of earths right down to the ground and doesn't blow the masonry apart. Here through the fence as well, we can see this old Drystone dyke, and you can see how it differs in style from like recent adventures when we were up the Cairn Mount at that abandoned World War II pillbox, and also like that abandoned house up that glen. You can see in this different glen how the Drystone construction is so different, but yet equally as strong. It's a completely different technique. And the person in this glen's used hundreds of tiny stones. So I think the further the sun goes down, the more purple the sky is going to get tonight. It's one of those nights, I think it's going to be a crazy sunset. And it has been cool to get up there and back down. I didn't even know if I was going to have enough time or if I would have to turn around, but it actually looks like I'm going to make it right back to the car before the sun sets. I'm just thinking exactly what bit I'm at just now. Yeah, I need to make it back down to that track. On the way up, I came straight up over that direction. But I basically need to get over there. But just now I need to head down here, folks. It's a crazy hilltop mission that we're on right now. And sometimes if you went the wrong path on a hill like this, you end up going down like a hole or whatever where a tree's been uprooted. The environment can be quite dangerous at times, but hopefully if I just follow this fence line, it should be fine. It's mad to think at an ancient time they spent all that time like making that dry stone dike the whole way up from the main road down there at Cullow Market right to the top, whereas nowadays it's far easier just to throw up like a metal fence here with a fencing wire and then obviously the posts. And back at that time they really spent so much time putting their boundary lines in like that, and it lasts for generations compared to this, which would need replaced probably every like 10 years or whatever. It's always mad to me just to think like how overgrown this all was with different trees and plants and shrubs just recently, and then a couple of months later literally this is how it looks. Like there's only just dead grass kind of sticking up, all the other plants and beasts are gone, even all the wee flies and other creatures that go about. In Scotland, once it becomes these colder months and in the winter months, you just see none of that. There's hardly any flies going about apart from midges. I can actually see the silhouette of a deer, and that's insane because there's actually that high fence line around the side of this, and it just shows the deer have somehow gotten like within this area. If I had a proper zoom lens I would get it, but it's just up there on the hill. It is getting darker and darker now, folks. I don't know how well this is coming out on the camera, but it's almost got like an orange tint to it. And it's just kind of like weird tracks that I'm following down through this. And this is where they were recently taking the timber out. Check that out, folks. That's 5-star accommodation for the forestry workers that have been working out here, or maybe even for the tree planters. They've even got a little portaloo there at the side. That's often what forestry companies do in Scotland and that, when their place is doing work. Often the people will stay in caravans on the site. Shout out if you've been staying in that caravan doing work around here. Imagine looking out your caravan window over this incredible view. But it is hard work out on these hills doing the work with the trees and the forestry. And the weather out here can be wild and unforgiving, so it is a tough job. But when you have scenery like this all around, it's just a paradise scene, a paradise landscape. So you can probably see, folks, it's almost dark. I would say another 15 or 20 minutes it'll be so dark that you would probably be struggling to see if you were actually out on the hill in that situation, especially when there's like deep holes and stuff within the wood and within the fallen tree stumps. It's just crazy. And it was so cool to see Airlie Monument again, standing proud here on the hill, overlooking the wild lands of Scotland and the local lands here of Angus and the Angus Glens. And it was so cool to come up here at this time of day. Such a peaceful spot, and with all the colours in the sky, and then the autumn colours. Check out these leaves, folks. Another few weeks all the leaves will be gone. I can hear the water running down off the hill here, and all these little burns. It's been so wet recently with these storms that it's just crazy like that around here. It actually looks like somebody's been fly tipping in this area here. That's always a scar on the land here in Scotland. Beautiful idyllic spots like this, and then that happens. I can see the deer once again running up there. That's the thing, the deer's probably actually stuck now at the wrong side of the fence, which must be a risk. Like that could probably often happen. Maybe the deer's gone in over one of the older bits of fence that's a bit lower, and now it can't get out of there. It's just running around, trapped. Anyway, folks, I'm ending this one here. Just think, 1901, that incredible monument was built, and it's been so cool to come and document it here. 2023, and it's changing almost from autumn to winter now, and the air's got a cooler bite to it. But the storms this year are just incredible. But I think that's meant to be the case now until like March next year, before we're out this like El Nino phase. I was just away to end it there, folks, and I noticed there was a bat flying around over my head. There's a bat. I don't know if it comes out on the camera. Probably not with this little camera, but literally That's what you get in Scotland, little black bats, and it'll be flying around getting the wee beasties and stuff that's fleeing about in this land. Anyway, that's me just about back at my car, so I'm ending this one here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon with the next one, wherever I end up going.